So I have a long, sordid work history. I worked there for a soda fountain for a while. I started out as a barber. I used to shave the ice. Then I graduated to a doctor, where I was a physician. Funny enough, they fired me. Then I got fired, from a calendar factory. All I did was take a day off. I used to be a lifeguard, but then some blue kid got me fired. I got fired because my communication skills were awful from another job. I didn't know what to say to that. I was sacked from my job as a theater designer. I tried to leave without making a scene. But I figure work is for people who don't know how to fish. Quit my job at a helium factory. I don't like being spoken to in that tone of voice. I never agree with my boss until he says something. My boss asks me why I come in with a rash every time I get wages. I say I'm allergic to peanuts. My postman keeps stopping work to tell me jokes. To be honest, his delivery is awful. Work. It's not just for sleeping anymore. Why did the door designer quit his job? He was looking for a new opening. When you don't know what to do, walk at a fast pace and look worried. My Scottish boss says you've got a week off, so I took it. Assembly line is the notion that a job worth doing is worth doing 847,000 times a day. My boss said to me, it wasn't my fault, I merely said I'm going to blame you. I'd quit my job, but I need the sleep. Robinson Crusoe pioneered the 40-hour week. He had all the work done by Friday. My boss asked me how long I've worked here. I said ever since he threatened to fire me. I used to run a halfway house for girls who didn't like to go all the way. I read that a radical section of Woodworkers Union has broken away and formed a splinter group. I now have so little influence at the office that a buck doesn't even slow down anymore. Anyone can do the amount of work provided isn't the work he is supposed to be doing. Did you hear about the unruly circus driver? He refused to toe the line. I thought I wanted a career, but it turns out I wanted a paycheck. My first day at the flour company, I was really put through the mill. I was asked how many people work at my job. I said, probably about half of them. I had a part-time job at the Samaritans. One day I phoned in sick, but they talked me out of it. As I left for a job interview, my wife said, remember, first impressions are important. So I started with Donald Duck and then did Jimmy Cagney. Still haven't heard back, though. Work is for people who don't have a good internet connection. I used to be an investigative reporter. Then I worked as a chef. My publisher asked me to write a cookbook, but I couldn't reveal my sauces. My boss said that I start at $400 a week, and after 6 months it goes up to $1,000. I said, well, I'll be back in 6 months. I try to go the extra mile at work, but my boss always finds me and brings me back. A colleague is someone who called in at the last minute to share the blame. I used to work as a lumberjack, but I couldn't hack it, so they gave me the axe. Business connections are important because they demonstrate how many people in a company can operate without. Did you hear about the man who worked at an orange juice factory but just couldn't concentrate? My wife keeps complaining about her 9-to-5 job. I admit 4.51 is a strange time to start work. On my first day at work, I clumsily tripped and fell into some wet concrete and made a bad impression. My boss said, shall we bring in a consultant or should we screw it up ourselves? I lost my job as a faith healer because it said it was too much time off sick. If you can smile when everything around you is going wrong, you're probably in the repair business. I used to work at a shoes business, but I didn't fit in. Escapologists struggle to make a living. I don't mind going to work if it's an 8-hour wait to go home that drives me crazy. A union leader was reading his granddaughter a bedtime story. He said, once upon a time and a half. If you have a shitty job, you probably shouldn't lick your fingers at lunchtime. I got a job at a zoo feeding giraffes. I just wasn't up to it. I once had a job as an elevator operator. It has its ups and downs. My boss said I was a miracle worker because it was a miracle if I worked. If the people who make motivational posters are so motivated, why are they still working at a poster factory? I've been off all week because my pet cow is sick. My boss thinks I'm milking it. The closest to perfection a person ever comes is when he fills out a job application.